So Ritu, if I had to ask you, what are you most proud of with respect to the foundation, what would that be?
That is a really difficult question for a few reasons. Number one, we're just about 2 years old, and although I'm so happy and so heart fulfilled with all of the work that we've done so far, I can't say that we've reached the goals that I want to achieve. I think that we're still in that process, and I really feel in my heart that my proudest moment is yet to come. So we've done great work, 100%, but I really truly feel that the proudest moment, the project that I'm going to be the most proud of, or the moment that I'm going to be the most proud of is yet to come. So I will circle back with you when that happens, and I will give you a proper answer.
I love it. That's great. And when you say that sort of the goal of the foundation, how would you articulate what that looks like?
So the goal for the foundation, first and foremost for me, is to have it generational. So honestly, my goal was that one day would be like the Obama Foundation or the Rockefeller Foundation, where it's gone through so many generations and it's still giving back. I want it to be able to almost kind of run on its own in that sense as well. And right now we're just kind of putting in the processes to make sure that that's what takes place. And then the other is the mandate. The other is the mandate to ensure that the work that we do, it is for empowerment and for education.
Wonderful. So let me ask you both this question. What is the best piece of advice that you ever received?
Oh, ever received? Suraj, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Sure. So I would say that that's a very tough one. I've been lucky. We've received a lot of really good advice over the years from a lot of amazing people. But I think the best piece of advice I think that I can look back on and say is probably the most helpful, it has always been around the concept of failure. You know, when you're younger and people tell you like, oh, don't be afraid of failure, it's not that bad, what have you, it's kind of easy to discount that, right? You're following a pretty easy path. You go high school, university, you get a job, what have you. And you don't always face the same trials and tribulations that you might when you're later on in your career. So I found for me personally, it was harder at a younger age to really have that concept of you learned a lot from failure resonate with you. But being later on in my career, having done a lot more at this point, I can really see how beneficial that really can be. Because often when things do go badly, when you go through something difficult, Ritu mentioned like COVID, going through something like COVID, Ritu couldn't sleep all night. And because of that, she woke up and we created Project Kindness, right? There's out of the kind of the biggest trials and tribulations often come the biggest impact, the biggest outcomes, because it forces you to think about things differently, right? When things are going well, you're not really forced to say, well, do I need to change anything? Do I need to look at doing things differently? Even if we should. But when things are going badly, that's when you're kind of forced to go back to the drawing board and say, do I need to look at something differently? And often those changes you make and those ways you look at the world will end up impacting you much, much more. I mentioned earlier about our success rate with Rogue, and I can tell you the very few deals that have gone bad, those have definitely taught us a lot. And it's also taught us what to avoid, how to make sure we kind of see the signs of those mistakes. And we were lucky, those were kind of smaller check sizes. And we know we've been able to save ourselves from much larger check sizes, repeating those same situations. So I think that would be mine.
Amazing. I think for me, because I'm also very spiritual, I'm going to give you two, because one is sort of the business side that was given to me when I was very young, and one is on the spiritual side. So on the business side, because I grew up in my family company, and I'm, Capricorn, super type A. Even when I was in school, if I was doing a group project, I tended to do all of the work just because I'm that way. I'm very annoying. So when I started after undergrad and I was working with our VP, he could see that. He could see that because I loved to work and I was very passionate, a lot of people started dumping their work on me. And he didn't want to alarm me of it because he knew that I was capable. He just very kind of gently said to me that it's really important to learn how to delegate. And he said, I'm not telling you to sort of be the big boss and, throw your hands up and say, I'm not going to do any work, but you have to know and remember when is the right time to delegate. And I was really young and it really stuck with me, because then I suddenly started realizing that there were things that I could have delegated so I could work on more important things. And it's more important to manage your time. So for me, that was really life-changing. So I think in a family business too, you kind of tend to just do everything. And sometimes that's not the best way. And on the spiritual side, Suraj and I have a guru that we follow. And one of his pieces of advice that really just stuck with me, and I teach meditation and I talk about this all the time, is to live life with happiness, not for happiness. And what he means by that is, a lot of people will say, I'm going to be happy when I get that job, or I'm going to be happy when I get that promotion, or I get that car, or, you know, when I'm able to get funding for this project. But when you do that, and then that moment comes, you realize that you're still unhappy. And he just talks about the fact that happiness needs to come from within. So for me, this was also really life-changing to understand that, you know, don't attach your happiness to other things around you, whether it's material, whether it's jobs, whether it's houses, it doesn't matter. That happiness should come from within. And what I have found that when you have that happiness within, you just attract other beautiful, positive energy. And inevitably, you will also go down a path that will make you happy.
So first and foremost, you are not annoying. You are delightful.
Thank you.
And I think I love both pieces of advice, right? Like I think you're right, Suraj, when things are going well, sometimes we don't really think about what the future might hold. One of the questions from the audience for both of you, what are your big future dreams about the foundation?
Ooh.
I'll go first.
Please. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, those who go.
Sure. You know what? So what I'd say quickly is one thing that Reetu and I have really enjoyed doing with the foundation is kind of the startup concept of taking something small and scaling it, right? So one thing we've been doing is we've been trying to work with a lot of different organizations at a small scale at first. You know, one group we're working with, they are taking these shipping containers and they're retrofitting them to become solar-powered, internet-enabled schools that can be plugged into existing school complexes, right? So looking at it from the technology standpoint, it is much cheaper to add to existing infrastructure in developing countries than it is to just build brand new infrastructure. And if this concept works, it provides the ability to avoid students having to buy textbooks and replace them every couple of years. You can just put laptops locked inside this classroom. You provide electricity to the community. It's a very scalable solution that is cheap. So for Reetu and I, one thing I'm really excited about is that concept of kind of like a startup, trying out all these different things, looking at all these different technology-enabled ideas, and then finding the ones that we think are the most scalable, are the most sort of attractive to basically put around the world, and then really throw our weight behind it and really throw our resources behind it. And we're kind of looking for the right team and the right concept and the right technology. And when those things come together, we know we'd be able to find a really cool concept that's somewhere in the world and really expand it. So that's something I'm really excited about.
100%. And I think to dovetail off of what Suraj said, for me, I feel that education is one of the most important things that you can have for yourself and that you can give to others. And education is also one of the #1 ways that you can bring people out of poverty. So what one of my dreams is to be able to build these schools. So whether it's through this company that we're using right now, or we find another way to scale it, but I want to build more of these schools in countries like India, like Egypt, where females, whether they're young or they're old, they don't have the same access to education. So for me, that's what I'm looking at to do with the foundation. That's definitely going to be the goal for the next couple of years.
Oh, that's fabulous. And, one of the beautiful things that I think about philanthropy is that it does allow organizations to take some risks and to provide seed funding, right? Like use those endowment dollars, provide that type of funding to really unlock a scalable solution that could impact so many lives around the world. So that's awesome. I think at this point, I would love to open it up to questions from the audience. If we have any, I don't know if people want to turn on their cameras or go ahead and ask questions.
Sure. Suraj and I are very much involved with TIP. So our family has been TIP supporters for many years. And a few years ago, they actually had the same issue where they found a lot of their donors, they didn't really have a diverse group of donors. And they wanted to ensure that TIP would kind of go into the next generation. And they were having similar issues. So what I would say that works, and we were telling TIP the same thing as well, is that I think the arts, I mean, for me, maybe I'm very pro arts, but I feel like the arts is a very attractive concept. And I think if you're looking for talent, I mean, LinkedIn is always a great way. And when I feel like it's also about education and knowledge. If you feel that not a lot of people know about opera, then maybe it comes down to the marketing as well. And I think now TIP also had the same problem where they weren't doing a lot of marketing, they weren't doing a lot of social media, they weren't very kind of up to date. So once they changed that, and now you can access TIP from your phone exactly as you're doing, you have the at-home option. I think that'll be absolutely amazing. And I think it's one of those things where you just have to think a little bit outside of the box of how you normally did business in order to attract a different generation. Because this generation, you know, everything's online, everything's social media. There's a 2-second attention span. So I think you just have to kind of, for me, I'm such a marketing geek. So I would say it would be about how you market. And in terms of finding talent, I would look on LinkedIn. And if there's certain traits or certain backgrounds that you think would fit into your organization, then maybe it's just about cold calling and getting people, you know, in-house and training them. I'm not sure, Suraj, if you have anything to add.
No, I totally agree. And Jen, I think you're doing some wonderful work. And I think you have a lot of positive momentum behind you right now. Speaking to our experience in Toronto with the International Film Festival and looking at the arts generally, I think that right now we're really seeing a much more diverse group that's interested in attending these new events, right? So I know that, you know, if there's in Toronto, if there's a symphony or an orchestra or a concert or an opera event, anything that's in the arts, you're really seeing a lot more young people. They want to go and check it out because they haven't tried it before, and it's a lot more normal now. So if you go to an event in Toronto, you will really see the crowd is extremely diverse. You'll have the typical, you know, theater goers that have been going for many, many years. And then you have a lot of younger people that just want to experience it. And I do feel like that is sort of, I think that's a global mentality, right? People are really interested in new experiences. And I think COVID really made the younger generation like double down on that concept of experiential spending. So I think you actually have a lot of positive momentum behind you because I think the demand is there for new people to experience the opera. So I definitely think you'll be able to leverage that and get more interest on the demand side as well as on the leadership side.
All right, so it looks like perhaps no one else has a question. I would just like to take this opportunity, first and foremost, to thank our audience. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I recognize your time is valuable, so thank you. And a special, special thank you to both of you, Reetu and Suraj. You have been wonderful guests. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. You're making so much impact. And like you said, Reetu, I can't wait to see when that proud moment comes. I'm going to be waiting for the phone call.
I will call you. Yeah.
I know it's coming. I definitely know it's coming. So thank you both. Thank you both so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. This is wonderful.
Yes, it was beautiful. Thank you all for attending and listening. And thank you so much for having us.